The thought that's been on my mind after a weekend with about 200 ultra-Orthodox Jews who wanted to hear more about the Chabad way of thinking. Now, they're completely observant, they're completely committed, they're completely Orthodox, and whatever other titles you want to give them. But there's some kind of a glue that they feel they're missing, which they hope to get from the Chabad way of thinking, which is what we talk about every week. The Chabad approach to what is God, what is creation, what is the Torah, what is the goal, what's the future, to tie it all together in a cohesive and sensible lifestyle. So one of the things that distinguishes the Chabad thinking from Orthodox, observant, traditional, there has always been a great emphasis on reward and punishment. If you do good things, you get good results. You do bad things, you get bad results. That's it. That's the story of life. And that has been the story for most of history for almost all human beings. Are you living a healthy life or are you killing yourself? Are you going to have a life after life or not? Those were the issues. How do I get more life out of life? How do I make my life more successful? How do I make my life more meaningful? But it was always about how we can improve life. No one ever stopped to think. No one dared to think, why life? We set life up as the ultimate absolute value, and now we're just trying to figure out how to make it better, how to improve it, how to make it more enjoyable, less painful, less confusing. And where did God fit in? Well, God is a very useful coach. He gives us really good advice. He helps us along the way, and he punishes us when we misbehave. So he's really a good coach, like a trainer that makes sure that we succeed in our life. Nothing can be further from the truth. Because if you think that way, you're worshiping life. You're doing everything you do in order to make life better. Life is the ultimate good, life is the ultimate value, and everything we do is in the worship of life. And then one day your kid, as a teenager, says, who says I have to live? Why do I have to do all this just to make my life better? And we're shocked. We don't know what to say. It's almost like, how dare you question the sanctity of life? That's blasphemous. No, it's not. It's life. You get 80 years, 90 years, 99 years. It's not sacred. It's not forever. It's not everything. In other words, dare we ask what came before? Before there was life on this planet, was there anything meaningful? Or was it just a hot stew, boiling and cooking and evolving and turning into this? So that's where Chabad thinking comes in. First of all, the question is not only permissible, it's desirable. Life is not the ultimate value. You have to imbue life with value. Make sense? Life is just a fact. It's what we do with it that makes the difference. So you have to give life its significance. It doesn't give you significance. It only challenges you with possibilities. But what you put into life, what you make of life, is much more important than the life itself. So life, being alive, being healthy, being intelligent, being functional, those are all tools. Life is a tool. Having life enables you to achieve something amazing. What is that? So what we're really looking for is something bigger than life. Something much greater that can make even life meaningful. Because life can be very empty. Life can be very meaningless, depressingly meaningless. So what is the sanctity of life? The sanctity of life must begin in the absolute conviction that we are given life by a creator. The creator has a purpose and an intention when he gives us life, each individual, and that intention is sacred. The reason God gives you life, that reason is sacred, meaning it's a piece of him. It's his interest, it's his desire, it's his need. Oh, that's obviously sacred. And out of that sanctity, your life is created. And that's why ending life is like rebelling against God on the deepest level. Because what you're saying is that God's intention in giving life and creating a life was not that important. And you know that there are very strict laws of the observance of Shabbat. We're not allowed to do any of the 39 weekday labors. They're strictly forbidden. And only to save a life may you violate any of those rules. Now that makes sense, right? Of course, you got to violate the law to save a life. Isn't life more important? See, that's the conventional thinking. Life is the ultimate, so any commandment should be put aside in the interest of saving a life, because life is supreme. Not really so. Not so. I mean, how often do people sacrifice their life to maintain their values, their beliefs, their morality? Now, there are 3 sins that we are not allowed to commit even to save our lives. You're not allowed to bow to an idol even if it's going to save your life. You're not allowed to take somebody else's life in order to save your life. And you're not allowed to commit adultery even if your life depends on it. Those are the 3 sins: idolatry, adultery, and murder. You may not violate them to preserve your life. So we see life is not the ultimate. Even life has its limits. So why are we allowed to violate Shabbos in order to save a life? Two reasons. If it's a fellow Jew, you're allowed to violate Shabbos to save a Jewish life because this Jew is obligated to observe Shabbos. Now, you violate one Shabbos to save his life, then he can observe many Shabboses for the rest of his life. So many Shabboses outweighs one Shabbos. It's not life that outweighs the Shabbos. That makes sense? If it's a non-Jew, we have to violate Shabbos to save a life because you got to bring peace to the world. And saving each other, looking out for each other, that brings peace. So again, it's not life that overrules Shabbos. It's either many Shabboses or peace. So peace on earth is greater than observing the Shabbos, but not life. It's a very different way of thinking, isn't it? So with this idea in mind, does it make sense to you that the Chabad community in communist Russia under Stalin outlasted communism without compromising their Judaism? For all practical purposes, that was an impossible task. And yet it happened. And as soon as communism collapsed, Judaism was well and alive in Russia because it had never quit. You see what it takes? More powerful than the communist regime. The commitment to the values that are greater and more valuable than life. See, now you can't threaten us. If life is your ultimate value, there's always a threat that will bring you to your knees. If the objective is to stay alive at all costs, well, then you're going to have to pay the costs. You're going to have to pay the price because your life can always be threatened. So somebody pointed a gun at the previous Rebbe and said, you're going to sign the confession because more stubborn people than you surrendered because of this little toy. And the Rebbe said, those people had only one life to live and they served many gods. This toy intimidated them. I have only one God, but 2 lives to live. You're not threatening me at all. That's the way we're supposed to be thinking. We don't worship life. We worship the creator of life. And what gives life its sanctity? Its creator. Since God created life with a profound and deep reason and purpose, then life becomes sacred. Then we are truly indestructible. I think the world has basically come around to that realization. People are not going to be motivated by threats anymore. People want to know what makes life worth living, not how do I protect my life. So now we can't threaten people anymore. Or the threat has changed. The threat is no longer you might die. The threat is you might fail to accomplish your purpose. That's scary. Because that purpose is so much more important than life itself. And the proof of it is that purpose is what makes life worth living. So even people who have been observing all the commandments, obeying all the laws, doing everything right, but they still had this notion that it's all an enhancement of life, and that life is the supreme value. And it's not working. So now they're looking for something pre-life. What lies beyond life that makes life so special? And that's what we're talking about. That's what we're here for. So, there are people who say, at least one person, who said, give me liberty or give me death. What was he saying? Liberty is more important than life. Without liberty, I don't want to live. There was another, maybe more meaningful quote of a very holy man in the times of the prophets, and he said, give me a friend or give me death. His name was Choni, and he slept for 70 years. Rip Van Winkle is a takeoff on that. When he woke up, all his friends were gone. And he said to God, either give me friends or give me death. I can't live alone. Still not the best. The best is, tell me why I'm here or I don't want to be here. Give me a reason to live or life is not. And that's what Hasidim study, that's what Hasidim cultivate, an appreciation for what makes life so special. The first Chabad Rebbe gave one of his Hasidim a blessing that he should live a long life. And the Chassid said, only on the condition, I will accept the blessing of long life, only on the condition that it's a productive life. Just hanging around and be old, no thanks. So, what is it that we can do to give life its holiness? It's up to us, not up to life. So, the expression, how's life treating you? How is life treating me? That's not the question. The question is, how are you treating life? Life feels empty and it's waiting for you to fill it with meaning and purpose and direction and productivity. So we need to fill our lives like an empty canteen. We need to fill it with richness, because by itself, it's drudgery. Does this sound like a radical new idea, or does this sound like, sure, I knew that? I think on some level we all knew that. We were just afraid to say it because it sounds like we're suicidal. It's not suicidal, and it's not soured on life, and it's not depressed. It's simply wisdom. There is something about us that is bigger than life. Life depends on us, not the other way around. You're begging for life? No, life is begging for meaning, content, goodness. So the question is not to be or not to be. That is not the question. The question is why be? Why be? And we have some pretty good answers. There's a creator. He created the world for a reason. His reason is infinite, eternal, awesome, endless. And he depends on us to get that intention or that purpose done. In order to do that, you have to be alive. Okay, so we'll live. If that's what it takes, we'll do it. We will accept the gift of life because it's an opportunity to do something greater than life. This makes sense? Is this too mystical? It is the most realistic, the most practical, the most functional, the most intuitively correct way of thinking. There's nothing mystical about it. And yet it's so powerful. Rachi, do we have any more time?
If we can get 2 more in, that would be amazing. Sophia, do you want to ask something quickly?
Hey, Rabbi Friedman. I have a question. I don't know if the answer is quick or not, but it's relating with difficult people. Where's the fine line between like enabling someone's bad behavior and actually trying to be supportive and helping them? Is there, I don't know, a quick answer to that one without giving a lot of background and just building a story around it?
Generally speaking, if you help people, what might be called enabling, out of sympathy and empathy, then you have much more influence and you're more likely to change them than if you simply resist and condemn. Right? So be on their side, feel for them, imagine that you would do the same if you were in their position. And now you have the right to tell them what you really think and give them some advice and show them a better way. But if you don't initially get into their problem with them, then you're just a stranger and your information and your advice is not welcome.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. It's hard when the problems are big and you have to go into them, and the more you're patient and nice to them, the nastier they become. But that's where that line.
Yeah, it's not just patient. It's identifying with them, being in the problem with them, not standing away from them. Like, I don't have that problem, so can I give you advice? No. Makes sense.